So in case you didn't see any of the other videos, this is the carburetor off of a 1977 4 horsepower. I got to clean it up, install a new carburetor kit, put it back together. So, first thing I do when I do this is get this pin out of there. This is a brass pin also, it looks like. That's kind of neat. Oh well. Yep, pull that out, pull the float out. I'm going to pull the seat out there too. We can clean underneath okay. That looks pretty good, I guess. Get our, whatever this thing's called out. And you can see through it there. And see down through there. So no major issues with this either. Let's get this old gasket thingy off here. That's off. And really, the carburetor body's pretty clean all the way around. But whatever. Let's get that out of there. Get this off, and now we're ready to get it clean. Getting this nice and clean is one of the probably most important steps. So I'm going to raise the camera up and show you how that's done. Be my bottle of carb cleaner there, or my gallon rather. So let's get this opened. That kind of empty. Alright, now, not reusing the floats, I'm not going to put that in here. But everything else can go in here, for all I care. And honestly, the reason I'm not putting the float in is just because it's going to float up. And it is a float, after all. So anyway, I put everything in there. This new week didn't really destroy anything. Pretty much anything you put in there is going to be fine. And to further my point, I'm going to throw the gasket in there, too. Throw the float in there. I'll show you guys. Alright, we got our carburetor nice and ready to soak. Get all this stuff in here. And my float floated up. Yeah, it floats pretty well, actually. Alright, enough playing around. Get this closed up. Also, this screwdriver, it was on clearance at a hardware store that sells blue stuff. Now, due to YouTube policies, I can't show you the label, the brand name, but it's a major hardware store that, you know, sells blue tools. So, figure that one what it is. Anyway, nice, big, nice kind of scrawny, fits into that float seat just fine, as you saw. And also has a nice metal backing. I think it's great for closing paint cans. And then it's got a little thingy there to pry stuff off. Just, I don't know. It's a great screwdriver. Alright, well anyway, I'll let this soak. Alright, let's get our carburetor out of here and see how it looks. Float's still floating, so that's kind of funny. No real change at all to it. Still pretty crappy looking. And we don't need it anyway, so let's just throw it over there. And there's what we need. Alright, got some carburetor cleaner. Just have to spray everything down. Choke knob, nice and clean now. Compressed air, kind of blow dry everything off, and then stick it out in the sun and let it completely dry. Alright, now that all the parts are dry and clean, we can get started putting in our new parts. So the first thing I like to do, doesn't really matter how you do this, keep in mind. Grab the little floating seat out of here. Little washer. And we're just going to screw this back in. Now, my large screwdriver doesn't quite fit in that hole the way the old one did. So I'm going to have to get a little more creative to tighten this down. But that's pretty common, actually. So at one point in time, I scoured the internet looking for a tool or a screwdriver that was wide enough and flat enough to be able to get inside of there, and that just never happened. As you can see, the old one it came out with here, no problem. That was a little bit of a shock to me. But my gasket chisel, it's a little chipped up now, but it still works. It's long, flat, and skinny, and I found it works perfect for getting these things tightened in there. You just got to push some downward force, tighten it down. Perfect. Now, I know that's not the proper use of a chisel, but obviously, as you just saw, it worked perfectly fine. And when you buy a chisel, and your intended purpose is to destroy it, it's doing its job. So anyway, let's move on now. Inside the float bowl, we'll come across, let me see if the camera wants to focus, there we go. You can't see it, but there's the little plasticky chingadera inside of there. Followed by the old little seat there. And then I'm just going to make sure no residue or anything sitting inside. I'm going to get a Q-tip, go inside there and clean that area out. See a little bit of gunk? You don't want none of this stuff staying inside of there. And now the problem is there's little bits of cotton, so we still got more cleaning to do. But so now we'll just go through our little bag of seals here. We need one of these little cork rings. One of these little plastic things. So, easy smeezy, right? Well, now I'm kind of wondering if two should go in there. Let me go check. Alright, so just pried out the top one. Got some crud in there I got to clean out, but otherwise it's looking good. Alright, we're off to a good start, right? Now, I'm going to go clean this up a little bit. Well, decently shiny now. Let's get this back installed. Yep, guess that's about it. Now, I didn't go crazy on the torquing there, just a little snug. So, let's get its base gasket on, which is this guy. Now, need our little brass rod. I'm still kind of surprised these are brass. Most of the time I see them in plastic. But anyhow, no big deal. Let's get our float and these little guys. So I put the spring on, little valve here. Now I'm going to wind the float in the valve, back inside of there, set it down, and put our little brass rod in. Now, do this. The float needs to be parallel with the carb body there. See how it almost is, but it's down just a hair. So that's really not that bad actually. So I'm going to get a needle nose. I'm going to bend the arm up just a hair, see if I can get it to sit flush. So all I did was put my needle nose in, bend it down a bit, and then I have a gauge, which manual doesn't call for, but I got it. So looks like I don't know why this thing's not focusing. I got to get a better camera. If anybody wants to send me a better camera, please do. This is a joke. Alright. So I have a gauge here that will tell us to stop. So on the 2 through 4 horsepower side, it's nearly perfect. If you notice the one side, it's got a little more room than the other. Let's check the back. And the back is about perfect as well. So it's sitting correctly except for the front here. It's got a slight bend to it. I can try to correct it, but I don't really know if that's going to help much. Especially given how off it is. So I don't know, it's a thousandths off or something. I really don't know if I'm going to be able to adjust for that. I don't think so. Well, we're sitting flush now. Our gauge is okay. See how flush that is? Let me show you the back gauge. There's no change to. I'll show you anyway. See, it's perfect. See what I mean? The front, you see a tiny little bit sticking up. I don't think that's really going to matter. At least I hope it's not. So I'm going to go ahead and vote that the carb float there is good where it's sitting. So there's a hole in the back over here to make sure that aligns. Notice that's the only way it's going in. So it's pretty easy to tell when you got this right. I blew through the fuel inlet there, just make sure it was coming up the hole. It was. So no problems yet. This put back on. Well, that's back together. So I'm going to clean up this back surface. It's not entirely shiny. Don't really like that. And then I got to clean up the surface for the engine too. Or why is this camera so dark? Let me figure. Not yet. This kind of gives it some kind of interesting sepia tone, but whatever. Alright, so I got to tighten the carburetor float body down before I forget. To its proper specs, of course. So one thing you didn't see me do was pop off this top plug and replace it. The reason I don't is because I've never found a reason to. Every time I've taken this off, you can see the little slow speed jets are perfectly fine. So I doubt my camera is ever going to focus, especially on something that small. They will. See those holes? Those are the only thing under that plate. So if you get in there with a tiny piece of copper wire and poke through those holes, that's good enough. So if this isn't bad or leaking, I've never found a reason to pull it out of there. Now, should we've been doing the other engine over there, the green one, the 75, where somebody just kind of put it on there and siliconed it, whole different story. But right now, I don't see a reason to pull that out of there. But anyway, this is what our carburetor looks like. So it's about ready to get back on. Alright, well, now the only thing really to do is change the fuel lines. So let's do that. So the fuel line is already removed from the fuel pump. So what I'm going to do is pull off the fuel connector. What's holding that in there is that 7/16 screw up top. Let's get that out of there. Hopefully not lose the screw. and see if this comes out. I'm sure it does. Yeah. Clamp there. Let's break that off. And usually what I do is just kind of break the fuel line until it comes off. Now I'm going to clean this up. I'm going to clean all the gunk down around that was under the original fuel line. So as you saw, well, if you saw one of my previous videos on this motor, all I do is I spray it down with some PB Blaster, let it soak in for a little bit, and go wipe it down. So, let that set up, and I'll wipe it down. So you can see the fuel line part number there. That's for an Evinrude fuel line, but any 5/16 fuel line will work. So I have the old fuel line that came out of here. I'm going to kind of measure that, and I give myself just a little bit more, and give it a cut. So what I'm going to do now is probably going to call for some debate. If you notice, what came out of there was a zip tie. So I don't necessarily like using zip ties. I can never really get them tight enough. Now, yeah, if I had one of those zip ties tools, it'd probably be fine, but I don't. And they ain't cheap for a good one. What I like using are these spring clamps. I pretty much use these all the time. Some people don't like them, I think, because they're kind of difficult to get off, but I think they do a great job clamping. And since I have the special pair of clamping pliers for them, getting them on and off is really no challenge at all for me. So I'm going to get this installed. Hose goes under like so. Position the fuel line in the up position. Now, see how that's coming off to the back? That seemed a little weird to me. I don't think it should be doing that, but we can manage, no big deal there. So what I did was I rotated this so I can get the end of my fuel line onto it. Now this isn't the fuel line I just installed, this is another section. Tighten that back down, and the other end of the fuel line here, I'm going to blow into it. So it comes freely out. Let me show you the problem. That's me sucking air in, and that's me blowing out. It's not supposed to work like that. It's supposed to only be able to go in one direction. So we got a fuel pump problem. Or at least we probably have a fuel pump problem. It may still work. I don't know, I'm not a fuel pump expert, but let me show you another fuel pump. So a while back I made a how to rebuild a small fuel pump video. This is that fuel pump. So let me connect my hose and do the same test. So obviously you can hear a big difference. Now I'm going to suck in. Nothing. Blowing. Now I can go through every running engine I have here and do that same test, and I'm going to hear that weird noise and only be able to suck in one direction. That I can do it in both. So that fuel pump needs to be changed. Or rebuilt or gone through, or something needs to happen to it. I'm just going to get some little bit of sandpaper and get this red off and put the new one on there. So the new fuel pump kit came with a new gasket. Using that obviously. So I'll reinstall this. Well, our fuel line now comes down, so that, I don't know, kind of looks a little better, I suppose. And yeah, so fuel pump's on, new fuel lines are on. Well, fuel line. So we're making some progress. Got to get the old gasket off there and clean up that surface. get that gasket replaced and reinstall our carburetor. Okay, there's our new gasket. We are going to coat it with some gasket sealing compound, just a light coat. In case you're wondering, it's the compound. Alright, so that's that. Okay, I got the new fuel line onto the new freshly rebuilt carburetor. So I'm going to put a clamp on the carburetor body there. Should do it. Now I will install the carburetor. Nuts. Put them back on. Hopefully, don't drop one down there. Okay, those are finger tightened on there. So now I just gotta get a wrench and tighten them down. Well, that should just about do it. Good and snug. Now we gotta do the choke arm and then find a grommet for the bottom. So when I was doing my electric start 9.9s, 15 horsepowers, I needed to buy a bunch of grommets for the electrical to pass through, and it's cheaper to buy a 100 pack than it is for 4. So I got a little 100 pack, and it looks like that grommet fits in there perfectly. Just gonna dodge that one, huh? All right, looks good. Honestly, probably change the top one too, but sometimes better leave well enough alone, so I'm not. I'm going to snug down these little brass guys just a hair. Not too much. Alright, I got the needles polished up a little bit. All the way in until they are lightly seated, and then back them out a bit. So now the only thing left to do as far as the carburetor goes is to install the pin for the choke arm rod thing here. A little hard to get my hand in there, so I'm using needle nose. If I can get it in there. There we go. Now there's a little washer. Goes on the back end. Now we need a cotter pin. But I don't want to use the cotter pin because they're kind of not easy. And when you want to take them out again, they're again not easy. So what I'm going to use is this little hitch pin. See if the camera can focus a little better. Now anyway, so that's the blurry hitch pin I'm going to be putting in, and if you saw when I took it out, I had a fight with it. Now it just clips in there. It's pretty good fit. It won't just vibrate and rattle out, so you really got to put some pressure on there to get it in and out. But next time I need to remove this, it'll be much easier. And this is, not a one-way kind of tool. Well, not tool. It's not a one-time use little pin. You use it repeatedly. So that is pretty much it for the carburetor. Choke works, as you can see. Knobs are working, starter's all there, it's tightened down. Snugged these guys down already, so no issues there. So we'll need to adjust the high and low speed knobs, but otherwise that's done. So the only thing left to do as far as our fuel system goes is get our fuel pump lines hooked up. I'm going to do the little one first. Now the power pack needs to find its way around. So it's pretty much going back together the way it's sitting in there right now. There's a bottom clamp that holds all the wires together. That goes on that screw. And then we have two ground leads on the opposite side, which go on the bottom. And it's a good idea here to clean up your grounds while you're at it. So keep that in mind. And might need to have some needle nose handy in case you have trouble getting those back in, but looks like those went right back on. Now, the only real thing this engine needs now is a propeller. And then we'll be able to test start it. So what we do is lube that up so it doesn't stick. Now you are just putting a plastic bushing over this, so this isn't necessarily crucial, but still a good idea. Alright, so I put a new drive pin in, slid this down. Don't know where the footage for that went, but if you saw the original video, you saw me taking it out of there. So it's pretty much the same. I'm going to put a little bit of grease on the splines here, just because this kind of gave me problems coming back out. So if that happened again. That should do that. Slide on the propeller. Hopefully next time you see this propeller, it'll be cleaned up and repainted. Doesn't look the best right now, but nothing new. So let's find where I put the cotter pin and reinstall that. Since the cotter pin doesn't really go through the prop shaft holes, you can pretty much reuse the old one without any issues. But buying a new one's a good idea too. Alright, so that'll work for now. Yeah, looks good. Well, that's kind of a wrap for this video.